to Good Game. I'm NichBoy.
And I'm Hex.
And Hex, this is my second week hosting while Barjo is away, and I just wanted to check, are you missing him? But more importantly, can I stay? Because I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, of course I'm missing Barjo. He's a very unique flower. The show wouldn't be the same without him. But you don't have to worry. You're doing a fine job.
I don't believe you.
A fine job.
Stop saying fine job.
Plus, you love MOBAs, and this week we're looking at a new MOBA from Epic Games called Paragon. A fine job.
Ben.
Oh no. You threw a rock at me.
Oh, we could get him. We could totally get him.
Oh my god, what have I done? Also on tonight's show, the fancy prancy platformer Bound.
A fine job. Plus, the best in the world in Magic the Gathering recently descended upon Sydney, so we're going to find out what happens when collectible card players collide. It's probably a really lame fight. It's okay, I'm one of them, I can say.
Right.
Magic is full of wrong. You are wrong almost every turn of every game. Right, wrong land, wrong goblin, your turn. Oops.
We got a lot to pack in, so can you name the game for this week? Bound is an indie platformer that uses dance as its principal form of movement.
Hold on to your ballet shoes, Hex, because I feel like we have a new game genre on our hands, but what to call it?
An interpretive dance platformer, a third-person ballet game.
A jazz-like.
I mean, we'll work on it.
A prance 'em up.
Ooh. Conceptually, I was blown away from the moment I took my first dainty steps in this strange, fractured world. It takes place in two realms, a real world and then a dreamlike dance world that seems to have sprung to life from the central character's drawings.
And in the dance world, you take on the role of the princess, who is sent on a quest by her mother to stop a monster that is destroying the kingdom. And the design really is incredible, as is the dance. The world itself seems almost to be built from shards of glass or folds of paper. The characters are strange and faceless, colourful beings. I found the choice to present the characters in this way meant I focused less on their appearance and more on the way they moved, and that is the core of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say I've never seen character movement like this implemented in a game before, and so beautifully. I mean, I would love to see some behind-the-scenes motion capture footage of this because it was just breathtaking. The princess doesn't make a single gesture or take one step that isn't fluid and lyrical, acrobatic even.
Yeah, there's a real Cirque du Soleil vibe to this, isn't it? The colours, the tumbling, the crazy headgear.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, part of what makes games so great is that they allow us to do things that we can't normally do in real life. And giving you a sense of movement and freedom beyond your capability is one of the best ones. Think free running in Assassin's Creed. I mean, this really plays into that. She lightly skips and dances, but you'll find yourself adding to the movement and embellishing as she travels just for the heck of it.
Bound is a platformer, but it's definitely one we'd classify in the art genre because there's not a lot of depth or range in the way you traverse the environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's short, there's no penalty for death, you just kind of reset. It's more about allowing you to experience the game's central theme through movement.
Yeah, and occasionally you do come up against the monster or aspects of the environment that are harmful to you. And in these moments you can hold R2 for the princess to go into her dance, a kind of pre-programmed routine that just plays out on its own until you let go of R2. Protective ribbons appear around her and she becomes essentially invincible while she's dancing.
Yeah, and you know, people do talk about art and creativity being a kind of safe haven or coping mechanism, something to turn to when dealing with troubling situations, and the fact that dancing makes the princess invincible is a powerful notion. Unfortunately, this game was one of those real missed opportunity encounters for me. I mean, there's just so much about the concept and design that was so great. I mean, the whole idea behind the movement and the way the world kind of bends and shapes itself around her. I mean, it's incredible. There are just some frustrating faults in the execution that really brought this down.
Yeah, the platforming sucks.
So bad. It's rough and inaccurate. There are times when you'll just completely fall through the floor. And you'll fight with the controls a lot to get her to transition from one piece of the environment to another. It's really disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. And while it is understanding that an indie art piece is going to be a little light on the depth in terms of mechanics, I feel like Bound doesn't actually explore its one mechanic. Dancing isn't required for 80% of the game. When I heard dancing platformer, I was all excited because I thought you would need to string together dance moves to solve tricky platforming sections. You go pirouette, chassé, plie, another dancing word, problem solved!
Yeah, there was one moment where you had to leap across platforms that were invisible. I mean, that was kind of interesting. It just feels like this was the beginnings of something really exciting. But each level more or less plays out the same way, moving through the same kinds of environment, dancing and skipping, and then this big slide thing at the end.
I think there are games that get away with having less action, but that's because they have a really heavy focus on narrative or storytelling, and you just feel like you're moving through a visual novel or something, and that's fine because you're gripped by the plot. But here, the story is way more interpretive, so it's definitely a platformer.
Yeah, and to make the decision to have platforming as your key mechanic, you really need to have that platforming be interesting and challenging, otherwise why include it at all? And yeah, I just don't think the story was really strong enough to rest on either.
And it does feel like one of these games that we're seeing a lot on PS4, this much more interpretive, arty, smaller kind of game. How do you think it fits in that genre?
I just don't, it doesn't have the polish of some of the other games we've seen, so I don't think it quite stacks up.
We reference these kinds of games a lot when we talk about, art games, but Journey as an experience was so impactful, not only because it had this really interesting style and interesting gameplay, but there was also this hook where you had someone else in the game with you, that you found an emotional connection with someone. These games that come out since then, they're really beautiful and they're really flowing, stylistic, yeah, but they lack this actual hook of the heart. There was no moment where there was this emotional punch in the game. I just feel like I can't recommend this over other artistic games that we've played before. As a painting, I give it 6 out of 5, but as a game, I give it 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, something like Abzu, for example, explores similar ideas of freedom through movement in a unique and mystical setting, but gives you much more room to explore. From a design standpoint, there are some really great ideas here, but I think there just maybe isn't enough experience behind the game to flesh those ideas out. I'm giving it 2. If you've been keeping up with our esports show Good Game Well Played, you'd know that Hing has recently bade us farewell for a new life at Riot Games, which means the show now has a new host, and it's Rad.
Yes, and Rad appears on Pocket with me occasionally, so I can vouch for her radness.
Yes, and tonight she brings us her first big story, and it's right here on Good Game.
That's right, taking a look at some of the best players in the entire world at Magic the Gathering, which of course is a super competitive scene.
Let's watch. No, pick those up.
I'm sorry, I feel like I really crossed the line.
They don't even belong to you. That's Gus's deck.
I know, I'm sorry, miss.
What is it? What kind of deck is it?
I don't know, it's blue.
Well, it's a water deck. That's his favorite. Nice one.
I only know about Hearthstone.
This corner's bent.
Oh shit, don't tell him.
Thanks, guys. You may be wondering why on a TV show about video games, I'm looking at a paper card game. Well, it's not just any card game. It's Magic the Gathering, the original gangster of card games. Without it, we probably wouldn't have things like Hearthstone, Elder Scrolls Legends, or even The Witch's Gwent. Invented by mathematician and games designer Richard Garfield in 1993, Magic has you take on the role of a wizard in a battle to the death. You're a wizard, Harry! You build yourself a deck using everything a wizard needs for battle, including spells, fantastical creatures, and powerful artifacts. All in handy-dandy portable card form. Best described as poker meets chess, this deeply strategic game has gathered a worldwide cult following and a professional circuit which travels the globe looking for the best players in the world. Their latest stop was my home turf, Sydney, so we went along to check it out.
Pick up the cards. You have 15 seconds.
He's gonna hit more lands off the charms, and he's gonna get to draw a bunch more cards.
5-land double.
He Shambly been attacked for 9 damage last turn.
So tell me a bit about what's going on here this weekend and next.
Sure, so this weekend we're having what's called a Grand Prix, which is a large open entry tournament. Anyone can play in it.
So I can play in it?
You can play in it right now. Well, it's already started, so you'd have to, but we're also having the Pro Tour here. The Pro Tour is one of the 4 major tournaments in the Magic calendar. You have to qualify for it, so they only have a few hundred people. They're more prestigious, more prize money. It's kind of like the equivalent in tennis of the Australian Open, except for they rotate around the world. So maybe we'll be back in Australia 5 years from now.
I think the Pro Tour being in Australia this year has really got a lot of people excited here in Australia. The Australian scene is a lot more casual players than competitive players. Yeah. We have about 5 people every Pro Tour, whereas the Americans would have, 200. Half the field is normally American. We have less players, but the field is getting stronger. Last year, one of the Australians top-8'd one of the Pro Tours. I think they got a lot of people wanting to get into the scene.
From Australia, Paul Jackson.
What is the life of a Magic Pro like?
Well, I still work a full-time job, like normal. I'm a harm reduction counsellor in drug and alcohol. Yeah, so that's
incredible.
Challenging 9-to-5 job through the week. And then, weekends, every couple of weekends, there's a big Magic tournament up in Brisbane, where I'm from, and a lot of Magic online. And then these Pro Tours 4 times a year and the Grand Prix that we get.
This is my full-time job. Along with being a father of a 1-year-old daughter. She was actually just born recently after my Worlds win, so that made it that much sweeter.
I write strategy articles for a TCG player, and I travel the world playing in tournaments. So between those 2 things, it's kind of, there's not much time to do anything other than Magic.
Do you feel like you live in the dream?
Well, it is a job.
Yeah.
So there's deadlines, having to go to every tournament, flying 14 hours to Australia, a lot of the travel type stuff, logistics, makes it feel more like a job sometimes.
Traveling the globe playing games? That sounds pretty good to me. I think I'll give it a go. How hard can it be, right? Interesting.
There's going to be a ton of players who cannot wait to sit you down opposite them and say, this is a great universe you've come to join. Let's help you out.
Who's going to help me build my deck?
I'll help.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Rich was right. I thanked my mentor by absolutely crushing him. You're on 13 Life?
I win.
And I win. This Magic thing was easy. Time to get some inside tips so I can win the next tournament.
The biggest tool to get competitive with Magic is Magic Online, because 99% of the players on there are above average, very skilled players.
I've completely forgotten my curve. I don't know how much any of my cards cost.
Magic's like an interesting thing, right? I mean, you're almost always disappointed at the end of a tournament.
Really?
Yeah, because, the vast majority of the time, I'm not winning a tournament. You understand that this is sort of what it's like. There's a lot of luck involved, and even, tournaments where I was the best player in the world, maybe I'm 4 or 5% to win.
But everyone's incredibly friendly, and I think if there is any sort of competition, there's no bitterness there. Everyone's understanding that it's that it is a game, and we're all here for the same reason.
Everyone likes to be right, and Magic is full of wrong. You are wrong almost every turn of every game. Wrong land, wrong goblin, your turn. Oops. Own the mistakes, learn from them, because there's nothing wrong with mistakes. Edison did quite well with making mistakes before the light bulb turns up.
And I think that's lethal.
That's not how it works.
Okay, so maybe I still have a bit to learn. But what is there to look forward to when I do make it big?
Best moment, definitely, when you win. You had the World Magic Cup, winning with the French team, that was the big thing. Being able to celebrate with your friends and representing country, that was great.
Most people would consider it the biggest tournament in Magic each year, so I was very fortunate to win the World Championships. It was one of the best moments of my life for sure, and my best moment in my Magic career.
Seth, and by no means out of the early game woods here.
Until then, I was kind of not really someone who most players talked about as one of the best players.
Double Siege, Rhino, and Seth Manfield is the champion of the world!
But I think now I've got more recognition.
Now everyone's going to be watching you.
Yeah.
It's thanks to these guys that people hear about players like Seth at all. Backstage teams of judges, officials, and video producers work around the clock to make sure the tournament runs smoothly and can be presented to fans on live streams anywhere in the world. The magic of internet television.
Magic's a game of conversation, and we put people in the conversation. That's what we're for.
Turning games into spectacles
It's really exciting. It's not only about, learning from the best. Of course, we have the best players in the world playing here, and lots of players will just look at their strategies, apply that to their own decks and stuff like that. But it's also about who is behind the cards, because behind every single player being in that room, there is just always some amazing stories. We have a 13-year-old. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I saw him. I was like, he looks like a baby.
So he's 13-year-old, and I met him because I was in a Grand Prix in Los Angeles, because he managed to reach the top 8.
Yeah, wow.
He lost in the final, so really close, but everybody was cheering for him. Because, looking at him, this level of dedication, I'm sure that there are lots of, other kids who are saying, maybe I could be that person.
It's sports, and sports is all about great stories, and Magic's full of great stories.
This time, the story ended with the American Owen Turtenwald facing off against Lucas Blowhon from the Czech Republic.
That is Emrakul the Promise End going on the stack for Owen Turtenwald. Well, Lucas is going to do some damage, wipe the board of Ishkana to life. All Lucas Blowhon has to do is attack.
Ultimately, it was Lucas who took the title of Pro Tour champion, overrunning Owen's tentacle monster deck with an army of zombies and angels.
Well, I feel great. I'm just very happy. That's the only thing on my mind right now.
Thanks, Rad. Now, if there was a genre that is completely oversaturated at the moment, I would say it's team-based shooters. But if there was an oversaturated genre that actually required real skill to play, it would be MOBAs. Send your hate mail to barjo@goodgame.com.au.
And now with Epic Games' free-to-play MOBA arriving in open beta on PC and PS4, we thought now would be the perfect time to check out Paragon.
Nice work, nice work.
Die, take my multiple arrows to your face.
Come on.
This thing is just killing me, and I want to kill it, but it's killing me.
Oh my god. He's dead.
Ouch. That was a lot of pain very quickly.
I gotta tell you, even for a MOBA, this is a giant game.
No, the helicopter thing is gonna kill me.
Get him like Harambe. Okay, so this is the MOBA that's supposed to be more accessible. Bam! An hour and a half later.
Go.
Not like this, not like this.
Oh, I want to believe.
Yes! Now, it wasn't until a few years ago I realized I'm a MOBA boy. I used to play League of Legends, I adore Dota 2, and I've recently started to fall quite deeply into Heroes of the Storm. So I'm a MOBA boy. Hex, are you a MOBA boy?
Not exactly.
Not exactly?
Well, they just seem like a lot of work.
Glory doesn't come for free, Hex! Paragon is a little late to the party, but maybe that was deliberate because it's borrowed elements from all of its big siblings and mixed them together in one of the most graphically impressive MOBAs out there. The staples for the genre are all here. 2 teams of 5 facing off in a map with 3 lanes to destroy each other's crystal, fountain, glowy thing. You're a superpowered freak, but you're given help in the form of creeps, minions, little expendable bullet sponges.
Yeah, what race are those things? You can't really tell because they're wearing armor, but why don't they look like the other characters? They're kind of just a weaponized army of little tiny Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, I find it's best not to ask those kind of questions, Hex. Just let them die. Makes them happy.
There's also a whole maze of underground jungle filled with secret camps of creeps and amber, the game's currency.
It's all classic MOBA, but what is a little less classic is the perspective. As opposed to the isometric Dota 2, League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm approach, Paragon has taken a page out of Smite's book and is third person over the shoulder. Which works, but it does mean you need even more map awareness. Only being able to see what's in front of you leaves you open to some cheeky ganks. And you are going to get ganked because there's a lot of verticality in the game.
It's also inspired by almost every other video game ever made, and it's got lots of guns, which makes it more accessible for newcomers. You might not know all the ins and outs of the meta, or how to last hit, or how this rat has managed to steal Iron Man's suit, but you do know what's gonna happen when you point the reticle at the enemy. And there's lots of little touches that make it more forgiving than other MOBAs. Your health potions refill themselves so you don't have to keep buying new ones. Once you're out of combat for a few seconds, your hero starts to move faster to help you get around the map. And there's no overwhelming item shop where you can buy hundreds of items that all look pretty similar.
No, instead there's a card system, and because it's 2016, legally all games must contain card packs. So this is Paragon's biggest point of difference. Instead of buying items in-game from a shop, you go into a match with a pre-built deck that you can use and upgrade over the course of a match. As a non-MOBA boy, what did you think of this system?
I think, on the whole, it's more manageable. When I think back to Dota, when I would go into the shop in that game, I just would look at all of these like rings and items and things, and I was like, I don't know what any of this does or how any of it's gonna help me. This really just seems like it's designed to be a lot more simpler. And by buying things before you go in, it takes the stress out of that like mid-battle purchase.
Yeah, because oftentimes you find yourself in the middle of a fight and you're going, do I want a ring or do I want a shield or do I
and
want
then
a
you
defusal?
start reading all the stats and you're just like, and people are like, help me, help me,
Yeah,
help
totally.
me.
Yeah, it absolutely helps with that. The only downside I see to it is that I feel like it could make your playstyle quite restrictive in that you've pre-built this deck before you go into the game, so you have to play according to the deck that you've built. And so if the other team pulls out some weird strategy that you've never seen before, you can't adapt. You have to use the items that you've already got. So I wonder how that plays out, over the long term.
There are a ton of cards to pick from though.
Yeah, and that's how Epic's gonna get your money. While all the heroes are free to play, you need to buy card packs to unlock the best items for them to use. And even though you get packs for freezies through playing, I still feel a little about having to pay for items in a MOBA.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they've tried to balance that by making the better items cost more amber to use. So theoretically, people who wanted to use something fancier would have to wait longer to get it than people who are picking more conventional items.
Yeah, it still makes me feel weird though. I guess I'm just used to the pristine equality of Dota where everything's free until you buy all the skins and realize you've contributed 1/3 of the $20 million international prize pool.
The graphics are better than Dota though.
Oh, it looks really pretty though, doesn't it?
I just love the look of this. It's exactly the kind of fantasy art style that I love. Ancient stone, muted earthy colors, and moss. I love moss.
There's moss and rocks.
It looks really cool.
Look at these cool like runes in the ground.
Plus, it's a seriously impressive world to run around in. It feels like a map from a single-player campaign.
Yeah, the textures might be better, but it just looks like so Unreal Engine-y.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing, except all games look Unreal Engine-y. It looks so much like an Unreal Engine game that it feels like it should be part of a tutorial on how to build Gears of War 6. Yeah, shots fired against both this game and Gears of War 6. I don't really have a problem with Unreal Engine, but I'm just like, it's such a showcase for Unreal Engine that in the launcher where you play the game, you can even launch Unreal Engine. So if they're like, if you're inspired by this demo, go make your own game.
I think that's great. That's awesome.
Well, good. Why don't you just go work for Epic? Plus, there's a lot of UI in the game, and it can all kind of get in the way. So enough about how the game works. How did this one make you feel? Because you've reviewed Dota 2 and Heroes of the Storm. Is this the MOBA that gets you to become a MOBA boy?
Yeah, I mean, this was instantly more appealing to me than other MOBAs for a few key reasons. I think the skill and ability system was just more accessible. I think the general art style and look of the game was way more appealing to my personal fantasy snobbery. And I got to play this sick lady character with a bow. It was like the MOBA that was designed for Hex. But also I think that third-person view just made me feel much more a part of the action, really in the fight.
Yeah, I love the third-person stuff here. Smite has tried to do that, but it also has a very cartoony look, and weirdly, a lot of the characters are super hyper-sexualized and stuff. It feels kind of light and a bit worthless. Sorry, Smite players. But this one did feel much more like a single-player game that you just happen to be, playing in this lane scenario.
I just think isometric view, it's like real-time strategy, you're kind of this like overseer of a battle that's happening and you just feel a lot more detached.
Yeah.
And I think because so much of MOBA playstyle is about careful strategic play and hanging back, I get fatigued by that. Whereas this, I felt like I was always in there and things were happening and it was exciting.
And so do you think you'll continue playing it though?
Probably not, only because there just isn't really room in my life for MOBAs.
So I guess that's my question.
The games are really long. We played a game that was like nearly an hour and a half. I know that's not usual, but come on.
That was a giant game.
Oh my god, I thought that would never end.
But I feel at the end we bonded as both friends and exhausted players.
That was a good victory. I think if I was gonna play a MOBA, it would be this one. I would choose this one.
It's interesting though, because I'm not entirely sure who is going to play this. I guess you might, but you're not going to. Because you go, it's not necessarily going to take people away from the MOBA they're already playing. And even though they're trying to make it more accessible in the same way that Heroes of the Storm has, MOBAs still inherently just have so much depth to them. I go, are you making this game for MOBA players, or are you trying to make people who don't like MOBAs play it, but they don't like MOBAs?
Well, since Paragon is an open beta, we are not going to score it. But if you've been looking to get into MOBAs and maybe find the likes of LoL or Dota 2 a little bit daunting, then this could be kind of a cool foot in the door. I mean, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too. I think it's actually a pretty solid game. It's not going to drag me away from Dota. I'm already the MOBA boy. But if you're looking to get into MOBAs, this one might drag you in there. As far as MOBAs go, I would say it's done a pretty fine job.
A fine job.
Fine.
I think it did a great
Adequate job.
I think it did a great job.
I'm the paragon
You
of
need
good
a
game
t-shirt
hosts.
that just says MOBA boy.
I do. That was a call to action to you, the audience. With glitter. You comfortable?
Yeah.
So did you name the game for this week? It was Linger in Shadows on the PS3 from 2008. Players could interact with this visual experience using the motion sensing functions of the 6-axis controller, rotating or shaking it to trigger new scenes. And it was our Name the Game because it was developed by Polish demo scene group Plastic, the same studio behind this week's Bound.
Next week on the show, a new game from the creators of Myst. It's Obduction.
Myst.
Myst.
Dance.
Dance.
Abduction.
Well, that one's not really.
It doesn't work. Plus, Hex, as someone who has zero interest in American football or any balls, for that matter, I'm going to find out if Madden NFL 17 can appeal to me on purely video game terms. Talking about soccer?
Mm-hmm.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
And Nick, even though you've been hosting the show with me, you've also been very busy over on Good Game Pocket every day of the week.
Yes, I'm a very hard worker, so please come join us on iView or the Good Game Pocket YouTube channel for your daily gaming news, plus live streaming, plus sometimes some rad.
I watch for the shenanigans. Until next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
NichBoy out.
That was an epic session of Paragon we had.
It was a very, very, very long
It was
match.
too long. I'm very particular about the times in which I eat.
Yeah.
And so had I known that the game was going to take that long, I would have brought snacks.
There was a guy who abandoned the match on our team halfway through the game.
Yeah, I
think
saw
it's
that.
because his wife gave birth to a baby and then the baby had its 7th birthday.
I've heard that those players are referred to as a potato.
I've never heard that, really?
Yeah, I heard that.
Then when they leave, they're just a potato.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
People
call them
say,
up.
Hi guys.
Hi.
How you doing?
Watch out, Grim! Blue Grim! Blue Grim!
Behind, in front. I don't know which way is I'm dying. All right. Well, we're gonna blame that one on Barjo.